Hey everybody, it's Adi here. I am so excited to announce something huge that Ignite has been working on for months. During this time, it's our number one goal to provide you with the absolutely best service and help that we can dream up. And that's why we're announcing an Ignited subscription where you get everything we create, our $1,000 flagship Ignited Hero program, our relationship intro course, access to all of our workshops that we film on a continuous basis, like the alcoholism workshop, sex and porn addiction, workshops for loved ones of those who are struggling, our relationship workshops on human needs and motivation and how they impact happiness, and so many more new things to come for you every single month. And you get absolutely all of this for just $43 a month. No commitment, just help. Plus, you have the option to upgrade to the complete package with your own private accountability coach. I'm literally talking about somebody who calls you on the phone and supports you through email throughout the entire time you're with us. We provide you those two options so that anybody who's under any circumstances, stuck at home, can't get to your regular help, or whatever it is you're struggling with, can get excellent help during this time, and you can put your mental health first. If you're interested, go to bit.ly.com/ignited help, all caps. Again, that's bit.ly.com/IGNTD help. See you there. If you love this guy for a reason, this could be, it doesn't feel like it right now, but it could be the time for him to actually become such an elevated version of who he's ever been. And if you guys get to do it together, then now your partnership is bonded for eternity. Honestly, even whether you stay together or not, it's bonded for eternity because you'll be part of the process of him becoming a much, much better version of who he already is.
Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Relationships Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And we're here to wrap up Sophie month.
Yay!
Woo-hoo. You got all of April.
Yes, it was so much fun. Thank you guys for holding space for me. My birthday is April 30th, and I just had so much fun celebrating all the things that matter to me. Obviously, there's so much more that I would cover if I could keep going, but I had really, really, really special guests, and I hope you'll go back and listen. If you haven't already, go back and re-listen, take notes, and really, connect to those parts of yourself that are a little sleepy, need some motivation and some opening.
Yeah, your birthday's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's fun. It's like a nice, literally we wrapped up the month pretty much almost exactly on your birthday.
Yeah, and I would love for you guys to go leave us a review. That's so helpful for us as a little birthday gift to me. If you could just go leave us a nice review, and then if we read it on air like we're about to, you get a special prize from us.
Yeah. Speaking of about to read reviews. Ta-da! Okay, this one comes from G. Gobblersh. I must have butchered that, but I apologize. All the Gratitude is the name of this, and it says, I've listened to this podcast since its beginning, and Ignited continues to be my absolute favorite podcast listen. I can literally feel the tension in my shoulders begin to melt as I walk and listen to this incredible podcast. Sophie and Adi can take any topic with any human and make it feel as if you're in the room with them having an authentic, soul-filling conversation. Yay.
Love that.
Thank you, Sophie and Adi. You always find a way to bring me back to my inner peace and my center. I will forever be thankful and grateful for everything you do for me and all of humanity. You bring me peace often, and despite the fact that we have never met officially, you both have helped me and my family more than you could ever know.
Aww.
From being a new wife and navigating our new marriage to dealing with my older brothers, meth addiction and finding hope for him through Adi's story, to dealing with miscarriage, to manifesting a huge move to New York City in under 4 months, and so many other ups and downs that life has thrown my way. You and the Ignited podcast have always been there, helping me to learn and grow through it all. I can never put into words an appropriate thank you, but I hope a simple I love you will suffice. Oh,
that is the sweetest
amazing
words and review. Again, heartfelt, telling us her story, how we connected, how long she's been listening. We love that. That's what fuels us for, one of those amazing reviews, we could get 100 bad ones, and that would make my day. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so cool to see in how many different ways this connected. And that was actually the fun thing about this week. And we're going to talk about that right after Sophie gives us her incredible quote of the week.
Bless the thing that broke you down and cracked you open because the world needs you open. Rebecca Campbell. So
it's kind of like what Ignited is all about.
Yeah. We go through shit, guys. We have tough times. We go through rocky periods. We struggle. We maybe hit rock bottom. We feel depressed. We go through mental illness. We have deaths. We have all the things that make up life's challenges. And that's what breaks you open. That's what cracks you open. And that's what we all need, is not to walk around closed up and resistant, but instead open, even though you've been through a lot. Continuing to stay vulnerable and open is the key to having lasting relationships and great experiences, is just that open-mindedness and open-heartedness.
So stay open. Yeah, I feel like that quote is kind of what we're all about. This week, Sophie's been talking about doing those old school radio calls. Remember, like when you would listen to the radio and people would call in and they would either have a question or a comment for somebody, or they just want to talk to the host or whatever. And they talk a little bit about what's going on in life. Sophie's been asking about how to do that forever. It's funny because I've been on Zoom for like 3 years, but we never really thought of just doing a Zoom call with people until Corona hit and the world seems to be living on Zoom. So we had that idea. We invited a handful of people. I think like 8 or 9 or 10 people joined us. And we had a really fun kind of like hour and a half.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we can't meet with you guys in person right now because of everything that's going on. And this really felt like almost like sitting in a little room talking to everyone. Yeah.
We'd love to know also where you're tuning in from. Maybe send us a DM, or when you give us a screenshot and say that you're listening to it, just say, from Denver with love or something, because I'd really love to get kind of like an understanding where all of you are, so that when we can come back and when we can go visit and travel and do events in person, we make sure we pick the cities where you live.
Did you like the kind of hanging out with a small number of people and just having, it felt almost like a, what do you call those? Like an intimate, yeah, but it felt better than a meet and greet. It felt like an intimate, like sitting around a couple of couches in a room somewhere.
Yeah, it was great. I really appreciated it. Enjoyed everyone that came on. I enjoyed the questions that came up. I can't wait to share this with you guys. And I think we kind of cover all the topics that make Ignited, from relationship stuff to even like kind of present day COVID related stuff. Yeah. And, like hopefully in 6 months, it'll be far behind us, but it's still relevant in terms of when you have life's changes and when you get a curveball thrown and your family, and say someone loses a job, or there's a shift, or there's a new baby that's born and then dad's home for 3 months straight. Like, things are going to change and evolve over time. So all of the advice we give is really able to be adapted to whatever it is that's going on. Like, maybe you didn't go through a sex addiction or cheating, but you probably have having some issues in your marriage or in your relationships. And so you can relate that advice to the future or to something that's going on now in a different relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So check this out. It's going to be fun. It's we go a little long, but we always do. So enjoy it. Yeah. Listen up. And again, as usual, I always love it when you guys send us little screenshots of, I really love this piece, or this, this element, this little 50-second clip just really spoke to us.
Yeah, DM us, let us know, screenshot us, where you are, where you're listening, where you're from, and what you love most about this episode.
We gave a lot of homework today. Enjoy.
Bye. This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fixes all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com. Awesome. So yeah, this will be the final episode of this month, right?
Of your month.
Yeah. So we wanted to do something fun. I love like the old school style of like radio shows where they bring in questions and just have topics that people can in real time ask. So I really thought that this would be fun just to integrate you. And in the world of Zoom, why not? We couldn't figure out quite how to do the call-in feature. So this is a great option, and we can't wait to really like get deep into questions and hopefully answer everyone's. We didn't promote it too much because we didn't want too many people here, because then we wouldn't be able to really connect to any one person for too long. So hopefully it doesn't get too big. And again, just kind of share in the chat box where you are tuning in from, and also what brought you to our podcast, to Ignited, what you love about it. Just maybe share something so we have a little more understanding where you came from, and maybe like what your favorite podcast is.
Yeah.
Podcast episode, Ignited episode.
You can tell us what your favorite podcast is too.
Mm-hmm.
You've been wanting to do this for a long time. Well, you've been wanting to be able to have call-ins for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like just that bringing in the community and asking real-time questions is so cool.
I remember listening back in the days when you would listen to radio shows and having those call-ins. It was always fun.
I feel like now it's just like prank calls. Like 105.9 is all. I only listen to 105.9 where hip hop lives. And
NPR does a lot of prank calls.
NPR definitely does prank calls.
All day, every day. So we got Rhode Island. We've got Kansas City. I know we have some LA people.
Yeah.
Where hip hop lives. Oh.
Glad someone got it.
And Miami. That's awesome.
Cool.
You know, it's funny. I I had this emergency with a client here last week, 2 weeks ago now? 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to get back to Miami. That's where he lives. And we were looking online for flights, and there were $18 flights to Miami.
Quarantine.
I was like, that is just insane.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's insane that the price can go to, it's like, I guess they just would rather have people on planes
Supply
than
and
not.
demand, yeah.
But I've never seen that in my entire life.
Yeah.
$18 flights.
Well, demand, nobody was flying. So.
Nobody was flying.
Yeah.
I didn't buy an extra ticket for myself because going to Miami would have done absolutely nothing for me. So
great.
So this is the end of your month. Special Sophie celebration month. Do you want to start out with an overview of everything that we've done? Because we'll record an intro for this.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah, we'll go back and record an intro. I mean, I really just wanted to focus on, I had no idea when we talked about this, Maddy, about it being my month. I had no idea that quarantine would be a reality. So I was like, we'll focus on Earth Month and we'll focus on topics that interest me. But, I guess we still did that. It just is like this overbearing energy right now that is hard to not talk about, which is COVID. So I talked to Taryn from the class last week, which was incredible. I loved where we went in that conversation. We weren't friends before. That was the first time I've ever even had a conversation with her. I hadn't even taken her class till a few days before, to be honest. And we just went there. It was, glad we followed that intuitive hit. And we were very similar in certain topics, like going deep about our moms and having to put boundaries around communicating and connecting with our moms. For a very long time, we both didn't talk to our mothers for a long period of time. For me, it was like 3 or 4 years, and then brought her in slowly. And now we have a really positive, sweet relationship that's very different than it ever was before. And we talked about intuitive movement. The class is all about intuitive movement, and the classes that I teach, Sarah was in class yesterday. It's very intuitive after 15 years of doing different yoga teacher trainings, different types, different styles, being a personal trainer, just loving the human body and how it can express itself. So we really went deep into intuitive movement. And the week before that was
anxiety, right?
Anxiety. And initially,
is anybody feeling anxiety at all during this period? No anxiety?
No, we're good.
I'm feeling anxiety like half the day. So
yeah, I feel like my anxiety has shifted and changed. I feel like I'm so adaptable that like the first few weeks I was really on edge and I was like downing CBD and just like feeling it all and trying to like get my grounding. And now I feel okay. I'm like, there's an end in sight. I think in the beginning for me, it felt unsettling, not knowing what was going to happen. And now I am hopeful. I do feel like this optimistic lightness that there is an end in sight. We're not going to live like this forever. And we've already got 5 weeks under our belt. So to me, it's like, okay, we're almost on the other side. And I have so much more work I want to do. I have so much, I'm almost like, oh, I want to make sure I have enough time because I want to take that course and I want to work on that thing. And I want to make sure I'm journaling every day. And I feel like excited by this time now instead of overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Who was our first guest?
Shalina.
Oh, Shalina.
Rising Woman.
Yep.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, Shalina from Rising Woman. And we talked about relationships, intuitive, conscious relationships. Her husband does a lot of work like you in masculinity.
He does masculinity work, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they do work together as couples.
Yeah.
I love that podcast. I think, again, like she's a very inspiring woman who makes you feel stuff, and like, I just love people who make you think, who make you go into those cobwebby corners of who we are and look at it, look at stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's good. It's all good to look at that stuff instead of numbing, instead of, I don't ever want to, we were talking about this on a walk the other day. Like, I don't ever want to be the type of person that like, I don't do that self-reflection. And then people are like, oh, that's that thing that she does. She always like fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to know those things about myself and either own them or transmute them or change them or evolve. Instead of masking it or hiding from it or being in denial about it, I want to just know. I want to be able to see myself from other perspectives and make sure that I'm being the most whole version of myself and the best version of myself.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult undertaking given the fact that we're always, even as we change, we see ourselves the way our brain interprets it, right? And
yeah, but I think even just being self-aware and doing the work, that's the path that we're on. And I feel like looking at ourselves from different perspectives and switching things up. So if you notice like, well, every day at 5 o'clock, I have to have this thing. Like, okay, so take that away for one. That's like little tricks I do with myself. Like if I wake up every single morning and I need to have a coffee, then I'm going to take 3 days off just because. If I every day at 5 o'clock, like, or if I catch myself grabbing my phone at certain times, I'm going to challenge like habits. So, I think habits are a good reflection of like where we're at.
Yeah. But how does that work now? I feel like right now that's one of the things that's been hardest is I feel like there's not as much of a drive to change our habits as we're going through this because there isn't a lot of structure. There's nothing.
I don't agree. I think that for me personally, I like get tired of being in a place where I make excuses for my behavior. So the first few weeks I was like on edge and like snappy with the kids and snappy with you and just kind of like not my best self. And I don't want to be that version of me no matter what's going on in the world. And honestly, I feel really lucky. I don't have any personal friends or family that's sick, that's dying right now because of it. So I feel like it's my duty to like show up as the best version of me and catch myself and continue to grow. And if anything, we have more time than ever with ourselves right now. I'm not distracted by working with my assistant for hours on end and focusing like head over heels in work. Like I'm very much with myself and I don't want to be grabbing substances or like being like blaming it on COVID. Like the reason we woke up early this morning, like that's your normal jam. Well, I haven't been like that the last few weeks because I've been wanting to kind of sleep through quarantine and sleep as long as I can because I'm like, there's no end in sight. But that's not a good habit. I don't like that in myself. Like there's
so again, if we're going to talk about changing, and I think in a moment I want to bring people in because you're all going through your own issues and struggles as this is going on. That was your usual thing. You wouldn't normally sleep till late. So this was actually the first time in a month that you changed that habit. And what I'm saying is there hasn't really been a push to change. You have to create the push yourself.
You have to create it internally.
You mentioned the coffee. We've been on a superfood coffee like daily thing every day, which is the best version of coffee we can create for us, right? But it's like if I don't make enough coffee, I hear it. Mm-hmm. Alex and you are like, I only got a little mug today. And it's just really interesting to me. It's so easy to dive into the things that feels comfortable right now because there isn't that much pushing from the outside for you to create change, right? You don't really, for most of us, have to be in a different place, like in an office or a store or wherever it is you normally work at a certain time. And it gives you this extra space. And I feel like for a lot of us, we don't always find the internal motivation to quote unquote do the right thing, whatever the hell that is.
Absolutely.
In those moments.
I think also that's the point is like, that is the challenge right now more than ever is to find that internal mechanism and turn it on. Like for me, I know that when I go quiet and I go by myself, that's when I can turn that voice on and like look at the things that I've been ignoring.
Yeah.
See where there's been conflict that week, see where there's been something that came up for me and then reflect.
Yeah. So I know you guys are here and we want to hear from you. And to be honest, this can be open. So whether you want to talk about topics that we talked about this month or other things that have been going on in the podcast or in Ignited for the last year or 2 years or whatever that you've wanted to talk about. So I think maybe Maddy, to keep it kind of organized, let's just kind of go one by one. And if there's somebody who wants to go first, let us know. And the other Maddy.
Okay, this is so crazy. I've listened to your guys' podcast for a while. And my favorite is when you guys deep dive into your story. And I've listened to the whole hour and a half or whatever a couple times. And it's crazy when you like something's placed in your path and you're like, I don't know why I'm listening to it, but this is so interesting. And then a couple years later, Sophie, I've found myself kind of in your shoes. And so, thank you guys for like deep diving into all that. I remember at the time listening and being like, why did she stay with him? Like, of course all her friends and family told her to leave. Like, of course, like they love her, you know? And I just couldn't like conceptualize what that, like why. And then like I've been dating my boyfriend for 1.5 years and we've been talking about getting engaged and doing all these things. And like, we broke up for a period. He just wasn't there for me. Some stuff happened and we got back together and he was like, I'm going to do the thing. I really am going to prove to you with my actions. I'm going to be there for you. And so we've been back in that rhythm for a while and it's been so good and amazing. And I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, we're going to take the next step soon. I want to do it, do life with you. And then I just found out like this dark side existed of like online stuff. And so, yeah, it's just so crazy and surreal. And so I guess my question is like, we're trying to work through the why and he doesn't totally understand it yet. And so like I've never loved someone so much that like I want to stay and work through it. So like if you could talk more about how you knew that and how like what signs you had to like keep pushing through and that things were going to get better. Like if you could talk about that, that would be helpful. And like I've listened to like the toxic masculinity stuff and the dude stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
But that would be helpful.
Yes, my pleasure. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that there was like 100% a sign because I don't believe that first of all, like through all these experiences, I don't believe that you have one soulmate anymore. Like I think that we have several, and really it's like, it's almost like the nature versus nurture conversation where it's like, is it completely one or completely the other? It's just not. I think it's a willingness also to make things work is a huge factor. I don't know what the percentage is, but without the willingness to work, it doesn't matter if you love that person more than anything. If they're not willing to work, then there's no relationship. So you can love them, but that doesn't mean it's going to work. So I'd say 100% looking at it and him and seeing his take and responsibility in all of it, which will evolve over time. Like, I doubt he has the insights in this exact moment to say like, oh, these are, it's going to evolve over time. And like, we're still digging things up. Like that's what the humanness is. That's what the human condition is. So it's not about being perfect. It's not about him taking full responsibility. It's just like seeing a glimmer of like, he wants to change and he's committed to learning about himself, taking responsibility, doing the work, digging in, and that like the pros outweigh the cons for you, and being pretty selfish at this point and keeping it on you. And what do you need right now? What do you need? What do you need to do to keep your side of the street clean? What is it that, for me, I really looked at like, why am I attracting these addicts in my life? Like, what is it about me? Right? Like, how can I take responsibility also about like, my ex was an addict, Adie's an addict. Like, I don't have any, maybe I have some addictive tendencies, but I'm not really like in that way. I can't really relate. So what is it about me and my character and my karma right now that I'm attracting this? What are the lessons in it? And that's hard when it feels like something's happening to you. But instead, why is this happening for me and what lessons are here? So it's kind of a mixed answer of like, how do you know? You know if he's willing to work and that you have it in you. Like, do you have that fight in you, or are you ready to just kind of wipe the slate clean and do your own work and then try it with someone else? But if you were looking for a sign with him, it's really his eagerness to work on himself with you. Would you add anything to that?
First of all, I love, and if our story helped you understand that he doesn't have to know everything right now for him to be serious about doing the work. I'll tell you, I've learned more about myself in the last 10 years than I learned in the 30 years before, because I don't know why he does what he does or why he's been doing it, but I wasn't even aware that it had been this thread that had run through my life since I was like 11 or 12, until it caused problems in our relationship. And I realized that I cared enough about the relationship to have to figure out the why in order to save the relationship. If you would have asked me 2 months earlier, maybe even a week earlier, but definitely years earlier, I wouldn't have put that aspect of my life. For me, it was online sex chats essentially with women. I wouldn't have even put that on a list of things I want to look at or take accountability for, or it just wasn't, it didn't make it on the radar. And I can't, it's funny because I have so much self-awareness, I feel like, in general. So it just shows me that it was so well protected, right? The role that it played in my life and what it did and where it came from and how it affected the way I related to women in general. I was protecting myself from having to look at it for whatever reason. So I would do a deep dive, like you said, into the why. And we have, there's now the Feelings Wheel workshop that is available for free to you guys with a little handout about the Feelings Wheel. We didn't discover the Feelings Wheel probably until like 7 years into our recovery. I wish somebody would have shown me that thing earlier on. I did not know how to express my feelings. My feelings were limited to I'm good, I'm bad, I'm angry, like maybe happy. I don't know if I would have been able to say that. But that's it. That was my vocabulary. And I can imagine now growing up my entire life with that being my verbal ability to express my emotions. I was limited to experiencing those things. So when I felt bad, I didn't know if it was because I felt slighted or disrespected or bored. Like I just didn't know. I was just, it was bad. And so I would turn to the first thing that would fix bad.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's his situation, but my guess is almost every man I've ever met is stuck in that place. And so if you love this guy for a reason, this could be, it doesn't feel like it right now, but it could be the time for him to actually become such an elevated version of who he's ever been. And if you guys get to do it together, then now your partnership is bonded for eternity. Honestly, even whether you stay together or not, it's bonded for eternity because you'll be part of the process of him becoming a much, much better version of who he already is.
Yeah, a lot of the things you shared in your podcast, like he hasn't listened to it yet. I've sent it to him. And it's like he said the same things. So it's been really weird of him being like, that's not the man that I want to be. You know who I am, like, you know me, and I want to be like that man that you know. And I don't know why I'm doing these things. And, I want to be better. And what's weird for me is believing like that you can love someone so much and then still be doing those things for like the whole relationship. And so,
well, I want to also just make sure that you're in the beginning. So, it's not as big of a deal right now, but just keep an eye on the actual words that are coming out of his mouth and then his actions. So you want to make sure that they align and that he's not just like talking the talk and that he's actually walking the walk, because it's really easy to be like, I want to do this. I want to do this. Those people in your life that just constantly talk about who they want to be, what they want to do, what they want to achieve, but they're not just do it. Just do it. So he can talk about it and process it with you. That's fine. But also he needs a safe place to go. He needs his own therapist, maybe some groups. D has great groups through Ignited for this exact type of stuff. It's really affordable, especially because you can't go to like those types of groups in person right now. Just really keeping an eye on it and not being his mother, being his partner and letting him be a man and not a child. He is going through something really intense. I mean, it helped a lot for me to replace sex with like drugs or alcohol. Like if you think about different bad habits and just kind of like exchange that, because it's the same energy. It's just a different process.
Yeah.
Like he was a drug addict before I knew him. And then we realized that this was a problem with the sex stuff online because he recognized it very clearly. I had never been through something like that, but he had been through it before. And he's like, I recognize these same things. Like, I think I have a problem.
So a couple of things, and I think we'll move on to somebody else if it's okay, Maddy. But I stay away from calling people addicts for a reason. Sophie and I, through all of our work, we've used those words so much. But I feel like especially early on in the process, unless if he feels like he wants to align with 12-step work and go there, then that's great. But if sometimes there can be resistance to identifying that because you do things, you are a different kind of person. And so I'm pretty soft with that. But actually, Sophie mentioned them. And right now, because of everything that's going on, we're giving people, there's two options. Maddy can share information with you about this later, or on the chat. But there's either 2 completely free weeks of our weekly groups, and 2 of them are now relationship groups. And so people literally bring their partner, which is a really nice way to slide into something instead of having to go find a new therapist and all that kind of stuff.
And we're popping in on Saturday.
Yeah. And this upcoming Saturday, Sophie and I are going to be in that Saturday relationship one as well. But Tina's amazing. The coach for that is amazing.
There's also ones for...
And then there's
trauma.
Other addiction and trauma related groups. Anyway, so it's kind of like you can get the best of all worlds if you want to just test something out. And then Maddy will also share, there's a link we really lowered the price of all of our stuff. So there's an option, like I think it's $43 a month, where first of all, you get a month of those online chats as a trial for free, but also you get the addiction workshop, the family workshop, the relationship workshop. You get all these other things to be able to really dive in and do work from where you have to be right now, which is home. So Sophie said it perfectly. Talking is talking. That's great. But and you got to do work. And whether it's our work or something else doesn't even matter. He just needs to find the thing that works for him.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that's going to snap. There's not a single solution where somebody will snap their finger and he will be where he wants to be. It's going to take work. Sophie and I share this all the time. We're 10 years into this, maybe even almost 11 years into this. And it's in a whole different category than where it was before, but we're always continuing to find things that we want to work on. So we don't look at it anymore as, when are we done doing the work?
No.
It's more like, oh, we're done with that trauma stuff that we had to deal with before, but now it's regular relationship stuff. And if you can get that going in your coupleship, the understanding that, hey, we should always be trying to make our relationship better, it'll be a different place for you.
And I'd also say, just add one last thing, is like, as you're exploring different therapists and healers and groups, like really find something that resonates for both of you. So I went to several different groups and many of them were not a good fit for me. They just weren't. And that's okay. You just have to keep trying different leaders, teachers. Like, you may find a therapeutic group that has nothing to do with addiction, nothing to do with sex, and it could be like the most healing thing for your coupleship or for you individually. Just making sure that you find a good match for each of you and being open to like, okay, we went to this therapist for 3 times. I'm not in love. Let's just find someone else, especially because everything's virtual right now. It's actually a lot easier. Think about all the time and energy of like driving to the therapist and driving home and all of that, like getting into their office, like none of that. It's just quick. So really finding the right fit for both of you so that you can get the maximum amount of healing through this.
And at the end of this month, Maddy, we're having the Love, Sex, and Porn. I'm doing it like a 2-hour workshop just on love, sex, and porn. So if anybody's interested in that, anybody who's in the Hero program gets it anyway for free. So it'll be there.
Awesome. Okay.
Who's next? Thank you so much, by the way, for your
thanks for
honesty.
opening.
Amanda?
Hi.
Hey, Amanda.
So excited to be here and to see you guys, like kind of in person in a way.
The closest we can be anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's really cool. So kind of to bounce off of what Maddy was saying, I'm not really going through anything like that right now, but definitely trying to do my own spiritual, just kind of like diving into it. I've always been very spiritual. My husband is the complete opposite. So it's really comical, like listening to you guys and hearing your story and how you kind of work through it. But I don't know if there's any tips that you might have to kind of like introduce this more with my husband and like get him a little more hooked.
So can you tell me a little bit more, when you say we're opposites, like how would you describe your husband?
Well, we're actually very similar in like the things that we like to do, but the way that we think is totally different. Like he's very psychic and very just like, he thinks horoscopes are like ridiculous. So like it's tough. And I'm very open to a lot of different things. So I love reading about horoscopes. I loved the human design with Zoe. I thought that was awesome, but he's just not really buying into it. So I kind of want to like introduce it in a non-threatening way.
Bruce is amazing.
Did you listen to the Bruce Lipton episode?
I love him. Yeah, that's awesome.
So Bruce was one of the people that connected with me because he's a scientist. And so he brings in all the information from the science angle. So that's actually a really good point, Soph. That's one
You can send him our episode, or you can just buy him the book, let him kind of dive in. Adi was like obsessed with reading it. And
So
awesome.
he has 2 amazing books. So that's one. And the other one is The Honeymoon Effect, which is about relationships. But it's really interesting. He was full on, science driven, nothing that's related to, forget spirituality, but even like anything mystical. And it's hilarious how far down that rabbit hole he went. But for me, it was more just a signal that there is more possible, and that he has a really interesting way of explaining that some of these things we just don't know. And instead of ruling them out, let's look at the rest of nature and understand from that. So one of the things that he said that really spoke to me about energy is he said, we're very comfortable with physical nature of things coming together. So in the brain, that might be neurons or hormones or neurotransmitters. The idea that there's a chemical that attaches to something else and creates a reaction, most of us are really comfortable with. Energy, we're weird about. We're really weird about. He said, but if you think about it, there are a lot of aspects where we do accept the role of energy in our life. And he gave examples we all know. So like light. People have been trying to explain light for a very long time. This idea that there are these photons, and that's fine. Maybe they're photons, but they don't really behave like cells. They behave like waves, like the ocean, right? And so even though the ocean is made of molecules, a wave doesn't behave like a single molecule. There's this other thing that happens to it, right? Like if you stand, I don't know if you guys ever thought about this, but like if you stand in the ocean and a wave comes over you, in a regular piece of matter, it would bounce off and go back. That's how matter reacts. Waves don't do that. They go around you, and when you look on the other side of you, the wave is still there. That's energy. That's a wave of energy. So the same thing happens with light. The same thing happens with water. The same thing happens with sound, right? Sound hits all of us. It doesn't stop with us. It keeps traveling through the world. He said, so we have those pieces of energy that we're comfortable with: light, energy, sound energy, and water through waves. Why couldn't it be that our bodies also interact with hundreds of other forms of energy that we don't see? And when he first said that, I was like, holy shit, that's so true. There's radio energy and EMF energy, and there's the energy that another person gives you that we've talked about for our whole life. Oh my God, that person has really bad energy. Well, what does that mean? Like, what is resonating off that person that I'm actually reacting to? And it really opened up my mind to how many things are there in the universe that I am not aware of because I can't see them, hear them, smell them, or anything like that, but are impacting me. And I don't know about your husband, but for me, that was a really, really impactful thing. So I learned that from his book. I learned that from talking to Bruce. He's an incredible guy. And just like what we talked about, I think maybe with Madeline, the goal is to find people who speak to you. So maybe this phrase does this in the best way that I've ever heard. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? And then the question for me is, what speaks to me in the world? So the things that speak to you, Amanda, don't have to speak to your husband. But if he's being resistant just because it feels hard and threatening to change his current worldview, that's very different than if he's incredibly content with his worldview and it's creating all the happiness for him. So I think that's, to me, kind of where the rubber meets the road.
I love that. Yeah, I'd also say just little tiny practices like, one year I forgot to get anything for Valentine's Day for Adi. So I just gave him a bunch of crap, like a candle and this gratitude journal and whatever. He will never use this, but
the 5-minute journal.
Yeah. So I gave him this 5-minute journal and he's obsessed with it.
Love it.
I literally thought he'd be cool and it would just be sitting in a pile collecting dust, and it's not. He uses it religiously. He filled the entire thing up and bought another one. He's now an affiliate for them, dead. But you never know. So just get him little things, try different things together. I love going to yoga with Adi. I love sharing those practices with him. Meditating together, just try a bunch of different things, and then he'll start to bring things to the table.
Totally. And the 5-minute journal, I explain it to myself in a very logical way. It's like, if I wake up in the morning, my brain automatically thinks about everything that's wrong. What do I need to do? What did I not do yesterday? What am I late for already? I wake up before anybody else at home, maybe other than Kai sometimes. But I still think I'm late all the time. And when I don't have a practice that makes me focus on the positive things and the things I love and the things that are going well, my natural voice will carry me that way. And so I studied psychology. I know about things like confirmation bias and the idea that where you put your attention is where your attention goes, and all these little nuances about the way our brain operates. So Sophie gives me this thing, I fill it out, and I go, oh, if every day I wake up in the morning and think about 3 things that I'm grateful for and 3 things I'm looking forward to in the day, my brain is now thinking about what I'm grateful for and what I'm looking forward to instead of everything that's going wrong. And I'm religious about this thing now. I do it every single work day. Sometimes I miss it on the weekends.
And you feel it.
And I feel the difference. So that's a really, really great example. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's awesome.
Pleasure.
Really.
Yeah.
Thanks for
awesome.
joining us.
Thanks for being here.
Who's next? Carlos. Let's go to Carlos.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I think you guys are great.
Well, thank you, man.
I have your book, like I showed you earlier, and I'm part of the Hero program, and I finished up to module 2. And I also heard you and Bruce Lipton talking, and nice of you to fix the jarble that was going on through the stuff, but it was all very much heard and liked. For me, though, I have four kids, and from 2 different mothers, and one of which I don't speak to much anymore. And
One mother or one child?
4 children, 2 different moms, and one of which that I don't talk to for a multitude of reasons. And definitely one of them is she was more like a mother figure for me than a partner. I definitely used a lot. I definitely wasn't present a lot. And looking back at it now and having that space, like I've always known, but really having to step and look into it and take my own ownership about the stuff. I just wanted to have my visitation and my communication with my children and not really apologize and let her know what she must have felt, you know?
Yeah.
And seeing that stuff now is definitely an eye-opener. I've done several types of work on the outside while I was using, or times that I've been sober. And this time, for whatever magical reason, my mom was listening to the Ignited program and has shared it with me. And she has helped me several times to get sober, clean up, because I've wanted that. And about, I think it was 5 years or 7 years ago, I forget the time frame, I was diagnosed bipolar 1, and I was taking a multitude of medications, and I was up on Depakote, about 1,300 milligrams or whatever it was, and it was just no good for me. And I pretty much blacked out and did some stuff that I shouldn't have done, and got myself in a lot of trouble and could have been in prison for a long time. And thank God those things didn't happen. And long story short, I don't know how to come across to Christine and tell her that I'm doing the work, because I've done this before. I mean, I've changed my voice. I've acted like someone else on the phone. I've done all kinds of stuff. And I definitely appear very scary. People don't know what's going on, why you here, there, and everywhere. And I also wake up very early. I exercise before I journal. I have the negative thought before when I wake up too. I did this wrong. I did this wrong. My 3 sons ain't talking to me. My daughter's talking to me now. My daughter talks to me, the oldest. My son talks to me. We've had a great communication and conversation for a long time. But my 2 younger sons apparently don't want to talk to me, which I believe is not true. And I know it's not true. It's just, I don't want to say that she's punishing me, but it's like there's a lot of hurt there, a lot of pain there that I caused for sure. And doing this work, it's like I just want to clean my side of the street.
I just want to, there's a lot that I want to unpack for you, Carlos. So
Got it.
I've got a couple of really simple answers.
Nice.
And then time will tell, really. So first of all, I want you to connect with Aaliyah in our group, because she's had a very similar experience to you. And she can talk to you about this. When she joined the Hero program, she didn't think she'd talk to her 4 daughters ever again. One of them had moved out of the house and had wanted to and become adopted by a different family. The first thing that everybody who's been in our lives and has seen the wreckage we can cause wants is consistency. Because we'll do great things for short periods of time. And when we don't get the response we want, it's a little bit like children. Like when we don't get the response we want, we get embittered and we act out. So here's the beauty of what we get to do when we take ownership. If you're serious about wanting to talk to your kids again, start writing them. Start writing them a letter. They live in the same household every day. Write them a short letter. Hey, I'm here. I'm thinking about you. This is what's going on in my life. I'd love to hear about what's going on in your life. put it in an envelope and send it off. You might not get a response for I don't even know how long, but it doesn't matter because, I always, if you're part of the Hero Program, that one of the things I talk about is we all need purpose. And if right now, one of the reasons that you will get up every morning and do what you need to do that day is to repair the fractured relationships that have existed in your life, that might be the thing that gets you to 2 months and 3 months and 6 months and a year, because you have your eye on a prize that you really care about. And if you care about these kids, you will show them and you will show their mom that you're not going away, but you're not going to be an onus. Like you're not putting pressure on them, but rather, hey, I'm doing my work and I understand what I've done in the past and I know I can't erase it. So I'm not even trying to make excuses for it, but instead I'm here and I'm going to be here whenever you guys are ready for me. And I don't want to give you a timeline, but I can tell you that it often takes a lot less time than you think it's going to. People who haven't spoken to their loved ones in 10 years gets fixed in a year or a year and a half. People who, have been estranged for a year and a half too, within a couple of months of consistency, people come back. Because here's the thing that everybody needs to understand. The people close to us love us. They just do. This woman had kids with you and there was wreckage and it sounds like it was pretty bad, but she still cares about you. She just can't deal with this other side. And so it's almost like our job. I take it as our job, and my job in helping other people find this is find that good piece of Carlos and put everything you have into that guy. Everything you have. Like every waking moment should be trying to figure out how to water that lawn and how to make that version of Carlos the only one you pay attention to. Because the other stuff will come. But if you make that version of Carlos so strong, you'll write the 75th letter and you'll get no response. So who cares?
Yeah.
That version of you is showing up every time you write the letter, and that's who your kids deserve.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would just say like that's all I want from certain people in my life is just like consistent love and consistent behavior that like no matter what's happening in their life, they're going to keep showing up as that version, that new version, because for so long it was inconsistent and I couldn't trust it. So yeah, just continuing to show up, even if it's hard, even if you don't get the response that you want, because you know that you're that person now and that's who you're going to continue to be.
Actually, I mean, Sophie just said it, but if you've listened to the podcast, especially when it's hard,
yeah,
there needs to be like
those tests are here because it's like, are you going to keep doing it even though you don't get a response? Or are you going to keep doing it even though
or worse, your ex might send you a thing saying, stop sending the letters.
Yeah.
If she does that, don't send them. Keep writing them. Like if she tells you to stop sending a letter, don't put that on her. Keep writing the letters.
Yeah,
keep being the guy. Save them. And then when you get to, maybe send her one other piece of communication saying, okay, I'm going to keep writing to them because I really want to talk to them. Let me know when it's okay to send. I want you to keep working on yourself and the other rewards will just show up. They just do.
Yeah.
It takes long sometimes and it takes a tiny amount of time some other times. But I honor your journey because we normally unfortunately, we get ourselves to a place where we're so lonely and so isolated because we've screwed over so many people that nobody, including ourselves sometimes, have trust in what we're capable of doing. But I'll tell you, the transformations I've seen are incredible and you just got to keep showing up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, man. All right. Either Sarah or Woods. Oh. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, guys. Thanks for doing this. This is so fun. My question is probably a little bit more for Adi. Just based on like you guys' whole story, which I think is so cool that you've shared with everyone. Was there ever a time where you were just like exhausted of being like swung at or like being, like the asshole? And like, if so, like, how did you deal with that? And like, I guess like what I'm kind of asking is, was there ever a point where you're like, how much longer are you going to like punish me for this? And then I guess for Sophie, like, how did you work through like not punishing him anymore?
Yeah, I would say there are actually a few points like that. Our old therapist used to call it
Doghouse.
being in the doghouse, and he said like when you screwed up really really badly, you're okay walking into the doghouse and just being there for a while. But then at some point, like we just talked to Carlos, you start doing some work and you want to see some rewards. Couple of things. First of all, I was so close to losing Sophie that I think I was willing to be in a doghouse longer than had I not almost lost Sophie and our first child, because she was pregnant with Kai when this all went down. So that's one thing. Secondly, we would have to continuously have these conversations with our therapist, because Sophie would get to the point where her perception, speaking back to what she talked about when you started here today, her perception was that she did trust me now and I was out of the doghouse, but it definitely didn't feel that way for me.
I also was trying to convince myself too quickly. I think I was like, okay, I'm over it, even though I wasn't. Okay, I'm healed, even though I wasn't. And I just was like trying to will it, which is something I do a lot. And I think like you can manifest things, you can will things, but if you're just not ready, you're just not ready. And I wasn't ready. I was so hurt and I wasn't necessarily deep enough in the work. And I was waiting for him to do the work. And I think that was a big mistake too, was just like, I had my own work to do. As I said, I attracted this for a reason. It's not all him. He's not just the bad guy. There's a reason that I stuck. There's a reason that we attracted each other. There's a reason these issues were coming up. We're each other's mirrors. And I think that leaning into that and just allowing it to be messy, I wanted things to be good. I wanted to feel good. I wanted to have fun and play again, but you can't just like force it. And I was trying to will it and force it. And we weren't quite there yet. So I would say that in therapy and I'd be like, no, I'm done. Like, we're good. I trust him again. He's like, do you? And
he's still like, go through my phone every night.
Yeah.
So, but then you normally remind me of this, but I just remember while you were talking, the thing that it took me a couple of years to realize was that what Sophie was doing when she was attacking me was almost like looking for proof. Again, almost like what we just talked to Carlos about. Almost like looking for proof that I'm seriously still going to be there and I'm not going to turn into an asshole if she punches me in the gut and kicks me in the nuts and slaps me in the face. Yeah. Most of the time proverbially, like not actually physically attacking me, but it actually hurts more almost when it's emotional. So I developed this way of thinking about it, and it's really hard. Honestly, guys, it's really hard. I struggle doing it. I just understand the concept. And I call it going in for the punch. And so when Sophie would be swinging and saying, "You're such an asshole. How dare you do that? Wait, was I on this vacation when you," and like all this stuff would come up.
I would just vomit all over him just because, like you said, I'm testing, I'm pushing. I'm like, can he stick through this? Is his story like trying to see if I could trust him? Like if there were any leaks in the story.
And also, as I know now, because of the other side of things that happen, a few years later, when you get triggered, it is not a rational place. So when she would get upset, she's not thinking rationally. She's not even necessarily trying to hurt me. It's just this stuff is coming up and I'm her person. So what I realize is in those moments when exactly when they're going, "You're a piece of shit asshole. You're never going to be a good person. You're going to fuck me over for the rest of my life." What they need is a hug. And I'm so sorry that I put you in this place where this is what comes up for you. And I'll do anything to prove to you that that's not who I am anymore.
That ego drop too. Like the minute his ego dropped, I could like look at him and have a conversation with him and love him. But I couldn't love him when he was just like, well, and turn it around on me or like blame it on something else or reflect. It's just not, I couldn't respect you.
Yeah. And I think if I'm hearing you right, Sarah, you're asking this question because you're the one that's under attack. You're nodding yes. So yeah, that's a good thing because it's only us who can put the gloves down. Asking a person we've hurt, "Hey, don't attack me anymore," just creates more attacks because we're being defensive. We're asking for what we need. And sometimes, and I don't know your specific situation, but with Sophie and I threaten the sanctity of our relationship. I threaten its safety. And so how do you get that back? Like if you just think about it in a very objective way, Sophie trusted me wholeheartedly, and then I showed her that she can't. It's like I emptied the glass of trust. Like I can't get that water back. I literally have to build it back up. That trust is gone.
And I even wanted to speed it up, right? Like it was going so slow that I was like, no, I trust you. The water is full in the cup. Like it's definitely not. You can't just will it. Like it takes, there's so many aspects to building trust again. And like he said, the glass was empty. It was turned over. There was no more water in the cup. And slowly, drop by drop, by showing up and being consistent, like he said to Carlos, showing up even when things were tough, putting down his boxing gloves, continuing to lean in for a hug when I was like, fuck you, you're such a piece of shit. How could you do this? I love you. I'm sorry. I made mistakes. I'll never do it again. And just being completely, open to my feelings, my experience, and holding my hand through it all. And then drop by drop, the cup filled up. And then a new experience is built, but we couldn't have new experiences until I trusted him enough to lean into those experiences. So it just kept building on each other. And then all of a sudden our cup was like larger, bigger than ever. And now like this size cup filled to the brim. And we don't even know how we got there. It was just like time and effort and energy and trust and continuing to stay at it and being consistent.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So like basically my situation was, I was with someone for a very long time. The trust was broken, but on his end, different circumstances. And so I did the swinging, forever. And I think at some point it depletes a person, right? You don't want to be on the receiving end of that anymore. And so, just sort of like, where do you go from there? Where it's like,
so again, it's the second time I'm going to plug this thing because I'm really excited about the fact that we did it and we released it so everybody has access to it. That feelings workshop, man, it's hard to explain the level to which if you don't have the ability to express and talk about what you're going through internally, it's almost like you have to figure out ways to solve it in your own head. And we just don't always have the tools. So that could be almost a fun way. It sounds weird to say fun for something like this, but it could almost be a fun way to say, hey, when I do that to you, when something comes up for me and I start attacking you, what does it feel like? And literally just have them go through the wheel and find a word that matches it.
He doesn't know how to do that.
I mean, I'm still learning. I've been at it for 10 years.
That's really powerful because I think it's hard to express your feelings as a guy.
Like, honestly, even for you, like when I do that to you, this is why I'm doing that. And then there's a level of understanding, and it's not just like you being crazy or you taking it out of like blowing it out of proportion. Like you're doing it for a reason and there's a feeling attached to it. So being able to vocalize that and verbalize that and connect and become intimate from that place, then he's like, oh, I get it now. And you're like, oh, I get how you feel.
Yeah. It's
and that builds trust too, because then you're like, oh, I see you. I feel you. Like you're just human. But when you're being a dick, like no one wants to, from both ends, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's hard to find each other.
It's easier to be like sad or all the other words than like just mad. I mean, it's easier to be mad than the other stuff.
Yeah. And there are, I mean, when you look at the feelings wheel and the exercise, the magic, and it's so crazy to me, but the magic is we all know the meaning of every single word on that wheel. There's not a single word you're going to read and go, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. But we have no idea what they feel like. So until you find the feeling and attach it and your brain goes, oh, when this is happening, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Oh my God. I don't know. I no longer have to say I'm angry or just stressed. I'm overwhelmed. And that's a feeling that I can express to my loved one, to express to a family member. And they go, oh, you're overwhelmed. Well, when I'm overwhelmed, here's what works. And we can start relating to each other instead of talking at each other.
Yeah.
It's really, to me, it's pretty magical. It's such a simple tool, but it's really magical.
Are you guys still talking?
Yeah. And I think like we would love to work through it, but I think sometimes like a lot has happened and you feel like you're like arguing in circles.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I mean, at a certain point also, like, not to talk about the elephant in the room, but at a certain point, you have to also let it go.
Yeah.
There has to be a level of you just like actually letting it go. And that's your work. He can't do that. If you're willing to.
Letting go of whatever happened.
Whatever happened. Like, whatever happened.
Yeah. Do you find that like if there's elements of some of your past, like that still exists, like if he had to work with a woman, or like maybe he had to work with that exact woman, like, or something along those lines, like, would that phase you? Like,
so I think it's a different
boundaries that you.
Yeah. So our boundaries were like this big, and like everything lived inside of it. Like he wasn't allowed to text women, talk to women, have friends that were women. Like it all, like this was like all the boundaries. And now it's like the teeniest, tiniest thing just to feel safe right now. But even then we could have a conversation about it, you know, like, I notice myself, like we do this a lot where we talk about something so much so that it becomes desensitized. So it's not so big or scary. And for me, that's really important. We talk about things. It's important for me. I want to talk about things to death so that I know, so I understand it all. I want to know every detail. I want to understand how he's thinking about it, feeling about it, like what came up, why he did it, which is why the feelings wheel is really helpful, because then you get even deeper into what was underneath that action.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just feel like it's so nice to really understand it all and to be able to talk about anything. Again, like in the beginning when I was like, I don't want someone to like look at me and be like, oh, she can't talk about that one thing. Don't talk about that one thing. Like, I don't ever want to be that person. I want to be able to lean into everything and face it with strength. And if I'm afraid, he'll hold my hand and like.
And that's what you want as a partner anyway. Because what you're talking about right now is the stuff you already know you dealt with. But I mean, look at what we're dealing with right now, right? This coronavirus outbreak. Like, none of us could have imagined this would have happened 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Not a single human on earth would have mentioned this as a possibility. And here we are stuck with it. Well, the same thing happens in everyday life. So this is what happened then. But how do you and whoever you find as your life partner get to a place where, look, you can't be 100% certain of this, but where you're pretty damn sure that almost no matter what happens tomorrow, next month, 5 years from now, 15 years from now, you have the coupleship strength to hold together through it.
Yeah. And there really isn't anything sticky anymore. We've been at it so long. But like, you know, later in our story, then I cheated on a D 5 years ago. He hasn't really properly dealt with it. Like we went to some therapy sessions and then he's like, okay, like just don't ever talk about him, or like he doesn't exist anymore. He hasn't done the work. So we were on a podcast last week being interviewed and he got all bothered. And I was like, oh, like I felt it because I used to be there. And I'm like, you really have some work to do in that. Like he still gets triggered. And then from the trigger, he gets angry. Then he was kind of sitting back and then he was tense, like all the things that happen to our bodies when we're triggered. The only way to get rid of a trigger is to move through it, to face it, to talk about it, to talk to a therapist, to talk to your partner, to journal, to cry, to move, to hit something. Like you have to move through it, or it's just going to be pushed down and hidden. And then that thing comes up and triggers you. You don't want to be a person who walks around and there's landmines everywhere because you don't talk about that and you don't talk about that. And then that thing comes up and it triggers you into this last thing. Like lean into that stuff.
Thank you, Sarah.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Bailey.
Hey, Bailey.
Hi, Bailey.
Hi. Well, I'm going to turn this up. It's good to see you and good to see everybody. So thanks for doing this. Going off of kind of relationships and I know about your history and kind of in that, but this is totally different type of question.
Right.
So with our quarantine life, so I am an artist, I'm an art teacher, and my husband is a physicist. So we're complete opposites. He got his PhD in laser physics. So we're totally, anyways, just to kind of get you in the idea of our mindsets.
Sure.
So my question is like for daily life and kind of like daily routines, how do you guys handle and discuss your differences on a positive note? Like for instance, I do this way, you do this way. You know, both are, neither's right or wrong, but it's like when it's your opinion, you think it's right. Sure. But it's like, how do you guys, like, those are just like daily things. And I think I'm asking that because I am spending so much time with him at home.
Yeah. I saw the eye roll. So first of all, a couple of things. Everything you're feeling is totally natural.
Yeah.
No kids?
We have a daughter. Mm-hmm.
You have a daughter. Okay. How old is she?
She's 2.
Okay, so that's probably causing a lot of stress too, because she needs a lot of attention, and he's probably not used to being around that need as much, right?
Yeah. Well, both of us, because we both work full time, and now we're
Got
both
it.
working at home. So
Yeah, it's a completely new normal.
Yeah. So again, full transparency, we are more at each other than we ever normally are because we're constantly in the same house. Like we were just joking about it. I didn't even think about the fact that it was the same thing that happened twice. But yesterday, I found Sophie's phone on the floor face down. And I was like, babe, don't put your phone on the floor on the screen. It's not protected. She's like, I didn't put it on the screen. I left it, I left it on the clothes, and we got it. It wasn't a fight. It was like a 30-second little thing, but that was the startup. Then today we're working out in the garage, and her phone fell out of her pocket. And I point out, she goes, yes, I know, I heard it. And these little things I don't think would happen at all if we weren't together 24/7 for however month and a half that this has been going on already. So one of the reason I'm pointing all this out is it's almost like you should vocalize that it's okay that you're at each other more than usual, because it gives the permission of, oh, okay, it's not because I dislike you. It's just normally I get these breaks. I get 8 hours away from you and then I come to you. Now I don't get any of that space. So I think that's a really, really important piece by itself. And the second piece that we're doing constantly, and Sophie's really much better than I am at the planning part for this, is creating activities, giving some structure to our week and our days, because like we said in the beginning, the structure is missing. And your husband, if he's a physicist, my guess is more like I am, which is he needs a schedule, he needs a regimen, he needs things to do. If he has nothing to do, he loses his damn mind.
He started woodworking, so we're good there.
There you go.
Great.
Perfect.
Good.
And you probably maybe you like waking up in the morning and having a little bit more freedom. So making sure that each of you has a skeleton of what would normally work and giving each other that space could be huge.
And asking for what you need, like really being clear about what you need, and then asking him what he might need from you. And just in a curious way of like maybe checking in twice a week and being like, is there anything I could do for you to support you this week? And then vice versa, he'll ask you the same, and actually asking for what you need, whether it's more self-care, more time alone, 2 hours to do art every single day. Like you can have whatever you want because he loves you and he supports you and wants the best for you. And if not, then we have another problem and we'll deal with that later. But you both, in a coupleship, like we want the best for our partner. And if 2 hours of creating art is what's going to fill your cup and fill your soul, and then you'll be good to go. Yeah. That's really all that matters. So being okay vocalizing what it is you need and vice versa.
And Sophie's when you guys listen to Sophie talking about things on the podcast, probably one of the things I love most about Sophie, even if it causes me inconvenience sometimes or it makes me do things I'm not used to, is that she's really good at vocalizing what she needs and what she wants. And then she's also flexible about how the solution ends up being created. But like yesterday we were at the gym, came back from a walk, and she said, hey, get your thing done right now because I'm going to go upstairs with Alex, one of the friends who's staying with us, and do something else. I have another activity. And my whole life, and this gets back to what we were talking about earlier, I always just held resentments and just like was wondering why people didn't do what I wanted them to do without me ever saying anything about it.
And resentments just cause, like I had so many resentments for the last decade with a D, like it's just poison in your body. Like he didn't give a fuck that he's like at work an hour away from me. I'm home with 2 kids in the valley, like dying with my own anger and resentment. He doesn't even feel it. Doesn't even faze him. He has no idea. So I was just punishing myself with these resentments. So I had to heal that and confront things, even though it hurts and it's scary and it's fiery and it's uncomfortable. On the other side of that discomfort was always us being closer.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to express what I need. There's nothing wrong with him he's my partner. Take the baby so I can go have a minute to myself to fucking think and fill up my own cup. Because if I don't, you're not going to like what happens later tonight. And it's just the truth. I'm not going to like it. He's not going to like it. The kids aren't going to like it. I need 20 minutes to breathe and think and be myself. And if that's 4 hours, then that's 4 hours. Luckily, I don't need 4 hours. But I do need to ask for what I want, or it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I think it's just been a totally different shift with this quarantine thing. And I think it's a good opportunity to share and to dive into it.
Creating new patterns, creating new systems, creating new patterns together. We've been having family meetings. We need to do another one. It's been a couple of weeks since we had one. We can all check in with each other, see what's going on, what's working, what's not working. Day-to-day flow. Is there something you need more of? Is there something he needs more of? Everything from getting movement every day to eating well, who's handling mealtime, who's shopping, who feels more comfortable. Maybe it's triggering to go shopping right now. Maybe it's, I like it. I loved going to Whole Foods. It was like the best adventure I've had in 3 weeks, but like it was stocked and I liked picking out my own brands and I liked that felt good to me. And I brought the boys and we made an adventure and I pushed them in the cart. But like to other people, like some of my best friends are like, I don't want to go to the store. It's triggering. It's reminding me of X, Y, and Z. And that's fine. But honoring each other, checking in regularly. What else do you need? What else do we need as a family unit? The way you're cleaning isn't going to work for me. It's just not, because you see this and like it's uncomfortable. But then he will see those things back to the beginning of the conversation and the beginning of the podcast. He wants to see, hopefully, if he's in a self-betterment path, he wants to see those areas and those cobwebs that he's not looking at, just as you do. So if Adie's continuously leaving whatever, wet towels from the pool on the whatever, like every single day I'm picking them up and it's ruining our rug, like I need to tell him and not just be resentful and just put them away or put them in the laundry. Like, and I'll say like, I'll sometimes make it a joke if it's really not that big of a deal. Like, how's it feel to not do laundry for 25 years? Like, he literally he doesn't do his own stuff. It just appears in his drawers, clean clothes every single week. How does that feel? At a certain point, I'm like, go fold the laundry. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're a grown adult. I want my stuff just to appear. So it's okay most of the time to do everyone's laundry, but sometimes it's like, pick up some socks and fold them. What are you you're just watching TV. So really going with each other's flow. He is working triple time right now. He's holding space for a lot of people going through a lot of suffering. So I am going to pick up the slack. I am going to manage the house. I am going to mostly handle all of that. But there's a certain extent to that. And I don't want to build resentments and he doesn't want me to. So it's that constant checking in and creating the new systems for everyone. Even if you don't have kids, even if you're not with a partner, create the systems that feel good today to make you feel less anxious, more safe, more trusting, and somewhat accomplished every day.
And like you said this last weekend, I'm a regimented person. I need a regiment. Well, the shit that worked a month and a half ago is just not going to work right now. It's just not going to work because it's just not the same world.
And then you'll feel frustrated.
I haven't seen Maddy. Maddy hasn't been in our house in like 6 weeks or something. I spent more time with Maddy than I used to spend with Sophie. Yeah. Because we'd be in the room together for like 7 hours, 8 hours working. And Sophie would pop in and out, and then I'd spend the evening with my family. But these things, they're just different. And whether that's happening for your husband or for anybody else paying attention right now, and there's resistance to that change, that's fine. We can do what we've been talking about this whole time, which is express the understanding that there's resistance to the change. What Sophie said to me this weekend is, look, I get it. You're regimented and you need things to have a structure. We need to change the structure though, because you don't need to wake up at 6:15 in the morning to wake up. The kids don't need to go to school at 7:30. So
we're staying up later. We're watching movies. We're like hanging out. It doesn't work.
For me, the thing was like, well, I still have to go to sleep before 10 so that I can wake up early to go to the gym. She's like,
for
why?
What? Like, work out at lunch. Like what? So it's adjusting and figuring out like he needs a schedule. That's fine. But it needs to change because it can't be the same as what it was because we're changing, we're growing, we're evolving here to the time. So you have to find a system that works for you.
Yeah.
Thanks. There's a lot I think everybody can relate to on that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right. This has been so fun.
Yeah, maybe we'll do more of these. If anyone is in a relationship, is working on their relationship, is just trying to be better, and this was informative and helpful, we will be live at 10 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday in the relationships group. So Maddy, if you want to just put a little link to that, that would be awesome. And you guys can join in. And yeah, just check out this episode. You're all going to be featured at the end of the month. I think it's next Wednesday, right? Yeah.
I think so.
And we love you guys. Thank you for being listeners and awesome, and for being here and for caring and being part of this community. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we can't wait to meet you all in person one day.
Have a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.